This is Clean at Work with John Barrett and Sarah Bacca. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for coming to join us for this episode of Clean at Work with John Barrett and Sarah Bacca. Today, our guest is the fabulous Chris Hutchinson. Welcome, Chris.
Woo! Thank you. Glad to be here.
I had the pleasure of meeting Chris a couple of years ago at the class that we had here in Florida with Caitlin. He came to Clean for Teams and brought his whole fabulous team. And it was so great to see the light bulbs going off and them getting excited and realizing things about themselves and the way that they communicated with others. And then he was able to join this last year when we had just Sean because Caitlin wasn't able to join us. And we had a fabulous time then as well. So very glad to have you here, Chris.
I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining, Chris. So we're going to start with our question that we always start with, which is, how do you use Clean at Work?
I'm a very sneaky Clean user. I use it very carefully. Usually, the time I use it the most is when we're having a conversation, whether that's staff or a client, and there's a word that comes across that's just packed with meaning. And I can tell it's sort of bursting at the edges. There's more in there. And then it's just pretty simple. Hey, when you talk about integration used like what? And they don't even know. We're just kind of sliding it in, like I said, an acupuncture needle. It doesn't feel any pain. Hopefully increases the health of the system. We also do clean setup a lot of times with teams. And that's been a lot of fun with the metaphors and people just grab onto that. I found I have to use the example usually first. My favorite example is a whitewater rafting trip. I'm going to need to be yelling out orders and having people sort of, when we need to, if there's a rock and I need people to be able to say, hey, rock, go left, kind of stuff. And it's really fun to sort of get people in that mode. I think people enjoy that. Yeah. And I think the last thing we do is, we do some clean feedback with each other, whether we call it that or not, but really trying to separate inference from the evidence is a big deal. So people can sort of step away from their story and see what they're telling themselves.
Yeah, it's generally where I start. That evidence and inference, especially like in a leadership role, is just so key because people come to you with stuff all the time, right? And it's like, okay, well, where does this sit?
Yeah.
So I was really curious about sneaky clean and whether, that should we coin that as a phrase? Sneaky clean.
Sneaky clean. Yeah. I think any methodology can be almost like performative. People can like, here I go, I'm going to go do this thing, or guess what? I'm going to pull this lever. Now we're here. And I like using it as just a gentle enhancement to what's happening. Probably just, if I'm going metaphors here, there's a little smudge on the screen. So let me just kind of, see if I can get a little clean right there. Because there's a little bit of blurriness. Don't have to wipe the whole window. There's a little spot here. What are we talking about?
I wonder if I forgot during my intro to say that you're the founder of Trebuchet and are from Colorado. Do you want to talk a little bit about what Trebuchet does so people understand the context for your work?
Yes. Trebuchet Group is not a producer of medieval weaponry, even though that's what we're sort of named for.
Disappointed.
It's kind of cool. Well, and actually, I decided it because I'm a recovering mechanical engineer, and it's this extremely simple mechanical system that has outsized impact. And at one point, I had a client that corrected me and told me that I was incorrect. That was not the reason that I was named. We were named that. And I said, tell me more. And he told me about how trebuchets, when they came out, basically tore down the single walled cities because, as long as you had listened to the big guy and did whatever, you were safe. When trebuchets came out, you were no longer safe. They had to tear down the walls and collaborate and connect between, and it caused the rise of a lot of different. It basically tore down the feudal system. Right? I was like, oh, wow. Cool. We help break down walls. But what we really say is that we help leaders and teams work together better. And there's a number of different areas we do that. We get to go all over the country, sometimes worldwide. A lot of it's around how do we help the team and the organization be healthy to be able to tap all the strengths that are there. And that also involves how do we collectively get clear and committed to whatever we're trying to do. So leadership, I actually have some leadership development that we do around my book. We do some leadership coaching. We also do a lot of teamwork that's really goal-focused team building, and then some clarity around where are we going and how are we going to get there. So systems work as well.
And how has Clean Language helped build on what you already had in your kind of consultancy?
Well, I know we were briefly talking about outcomes as being so important. And I think it's in our consultancy, and I can say consultancy without having the nervous tick. A lot of consultants tend to say, I'm smart, you're not. You have money, I don't. Let's see how long we can make this last.
Mhm.
We don't do that approach. It's really around what outcome are you trying to get? In fact, rather than where are things sucking, we're like, what would be amazing?
Yeah.
Where are you now? And that's the gap we'd like to go for. It's like, that's the gap, that's the energy that can drive whatever change or shift that we want to make. And even encouraging people along the lines of sort of an appreciative approach. Well, what's working already? What's your plan? Then we talk about the gaps and see if, is there any way we can support you and your team as you work through that gap? So it's very much, I mean, we work ourselves out of a job constantly. We have long-term relationships and short-term engagements because it really is about helping people get through whatever the challenge is, and they're good. And later on, they'll say, now that we're talking to each other honestly, we're looking at the vision on the wall, and people are starting to say, when I was hired, I didn't say no, but that doesn't mean I'm committed. And so what could we actually do now that we're at this new stage? We need to readdress where we're really going, because people are in a job, but they're not as connected to the calling of the mission as they want to be and we want them to be.
And you said your entire team came on the training. So what was that experience like?
That was really cool. I had an inkling. So I didn't actually know lots about Caitlin. I'd heard her on a podcast. And Diana, my wife and COO, were sitting in bed like one Sunday morning. She's listening to a podcast, and I was just like, my brain just got pulled over to it. And I was like, wait a minute, who is this? And what is this? So we watched the TED Talk for Caitlin and started learning a little bit about it, got the book. But on that, there was something like, yeah, we're going to be in Florida in 2 months or whatever. Like, okay, we're going. And I don't typically do those kind of decisions, but I really put it out for the team because we have a shared bonus system, and part of it is a pool of money to have experiences. A quarter of it goes out to people individually, equally, and a part of it goes collectively is used for experiences. So I said, I'd love to do this. Of course, we had to do Harry Potter World and had a lot of fun with that. In fact, this is fun. So we all got wands. We did the little wand ceremony thing.
Yeah.
And this is kind of cool. We had this custom made. I don't know, can you see that pretty well?
Oh,
what would you like to have happen? Right? Do you see the connection with the clean?
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. So we had those custom made wand holders. What do you want to have happen? And I've lost my train of thought because I was just so caught up in like going down there to Florida. But the team experience. So the one of the best parts of it was right at the beginning, because we were a large portion of the workshop, we did get paired together. And so I got paired with a team member who sometimes can be conflict. And the question was, when you're learning at your best, you're like, what? And she went first and she said, when I'm learning, it's like being in a choir, and I know the music and I know every part and exactly what I'm going to do and when I'm going to come in, and making sure that I don't make a mistake so that it sounds beautiful. And that's it's really important. And you'll have a hint of where some of this conflict comes from. She's asked me, and I said, well, for me, learning at my best, it's kind of like those videos of the molecule that like links together DNA. It starts with the RNA and then gets stuff from the soup, and it clicks this into this and this and this, and just being very aware of what's happening. There's a structure, but we're creating it as we go. And you can tell that we were pretty far apart. I'm improving all the time, and she's like, wait, that wasn't in the script, right? So it was just a very powerful way to be able to appreciate each other. And so that started us really on our journey, understanding clean and how we might use it under a different understanding to work together better.
Yeah. What's the favorite type of client or problem that you work with? Trebuchet work.
Yeah, well, we have Trebuchet, we have broader, so we're 5 people. So we have different sort of emphasis. I think the most powerful, there's 2 things that work for me really well. It's when an organization is dealing with some kind of shift or change, and that could be within the leadership itself or within that senior team. And I like working with the senior teams because if they shift, everybody has the opportunity to shift. If they don't, it won't happen. And usually simultaneously working with a leader, because whatever they've been doing got them there, that's fine. And where do they want to go? So helping that team figure out that it's not about me optimizing my function, but us together optimizing the organization is where the recovering engineer in me comes out, Otherwise, most people optimize to their function, which means the organization is sub-optimized automatically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if we look at this function or the whole organization, say, but we need to be vulnerable and talk to each other and actually figure out what's important and look for how are we sharing in that success. So I love that part. And especially when an organization is sort of growing to the point where they almost need to instill another layer of leadership. Because people, to clear that gap, that the leaders that were at one level have to step up a little and leave space, but also encourage people to be able to step in. So it's not like, yeah, you couldn't do that. I'm going to step back in and do it. Creating the confidence and the clarity. That's really fun. And then working with leaders themselves, especially I like technical leaders who've come up through some technical specialty and which almost forces them or definitely encourages them to micromanage. Because what they're good at is the work that they were doing, not this leadership and management stuff. So first they got to be a manager. Great, I won't micromanage. The fun part is when they become a leader. Because I call it micro leading. Let me tell you how to lead, right? Instead of because now they got the manager, they basically like, here, let me help you manage that. I'm gonna micro lead you. And it's like, no, actually, you need to get into this place where you allow that person's management to grow. Just in the same way they're letting individual contributors really make their stuff sing.
Has your knowledge of clean helped with any of that type of work?
I think it sits alongside a lot of my experience and really enhances it. It's sort of like umami, it's like, wow, it's just going to taste better with a little bit of this. In terms of getting clear understanding, I've always really appreciated people are different and coming from different perspectives and helping them unpack words, but it's a way to get there much more quickly, I think, too, without a lot of drama, just like, well, let's just explore this and figure out what's happening here rather than having to dive in and have some intervention.
Yeah. You mentioned drama. Have you been able to use clean in any way to work with drama?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So we're actually going to be doing this workshop in Colorado here in the middle of August, and Caitlin's going to come here, so we can talk about that later. But the drama triangle, it was about the same time I think I was going to that workshop. It just popped into my life again and caused a lot of introspection for myself and looking at my systems that I work in, like my extended family. Holy cow, we're programmed on this. And so just having those questions to be able to unpack things in a way and getting that, whether it's clean feedback, getting to what's the impact here? Well, what story am I telling myself and what is that based on, has really helped me personally, step away from the drama, at the same time appreciating that people are in it and that's how it plays. So not putting them in contempt because they're in drama, which was that was a big learning for me too. Like I'm stepping away, but if I look down on them in any way, that's not going to help.
Yeah. And then you're not actually stepping away, right?
I'm not actually stepping away. I'm just in a different layer of whatever, So,
Right.
so it is in
layers.
that place of being like, yeah, exactly. So a lot of it's self-understanding, I think, to be able to then show up in a way that's cleaner and help other people decide if they want to go into that.
Yes. The drama teaching that I've learned from Caitlin has really helped me because I'm naturally such a rescuer, and to learn to trust people to take care of their own stuff.
Yes.
It's been huge for me.
I say recovering engineer and recovering rescuer frequently. It's never going to go away. I was deeply programmed, but I can try to minimize it.
I feel like when you learn the Cartman drama triangle in Clean for Teams or any of the other trainings, it should come with a warning. Once you see this, you won't be able to unsee these roles anywhere you go. So I'll be on a train and you'll see a rescuer or, whatever's in.
I think you're right. I think that needs to be on there. It's not a trigger warning, but the warning, this is the red or blue pill, you won't.
Yeah. Enlightenment warning.
Reality shift ahead.
So what is next for you in the clean space, Chris?
Well, I think we're continuing to work on our own skills here. In fact, so would now be a good time to talk about the thing?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Okay. So I was so inspired what Sarah did. And of course, wish the UK was closer, but there's this ocean thing that's between us. So we set up, our team was talking about how we really wanted to make an impact and help people. And so we're going to have, Caitlin's coming over. And on the 11th of August, it's actually not like formally published, but there's a church that we're partnering with, the Foothills Unitarian Church, and a Council of Interfaith Group. Forget what the name is, but basically all the partners that are involved in sort of helping create a community of belonging, safety, and freedom. We're going to have a conversation on that Sunday night before this thing starts on the 12th of August. And we're going to be doing a half-day workshop that's very large, probably 300 people, hopefully, that are going to sort of dive in and drama triangle, get awareness. Some of those people will stay for the rest of the day and go into a little bit more tools and methods. And then we've invited clients, and clean practitioners are very welcome to come in and then have 2 days of deeper practice. So that'll be the smallest crew. And we're also hoping that there's some organizations we work with that are going to take teams of 6 or 8 people. So they'll sort of do parallel processing. They'll be working the process with their stuff while other people are doing it with theirs. Because I really, and this again, maybe the engineer in me, getting some practical experience to feel like what it feels like rather than just in your head.
Yes.
Or maybe in your heart, I think that's the kind of thing that can make it stick. And so we're going to be doing that. I know we're hosting Caitlin for ourselves for a couple of days after. So she's going to dive in, because one of the things we're not doing as well is we went to the metaphors, a couple of them, and we're like, these are great. And we're not using them besides just individual awareness. We're like, how do we use these and what do we do? So we're hoping to learn a little bit more about that. And I guess that's more systemic modeling, but it's along with the clean things that are part of this universe.
Wow. Sounds like a pretty impressive week to me.
I think it's going to be really fun. Caitlin did say that, we talked about having a whitewater rafting trip on that Friday. And she said, you almost had me just at that, but we'll do these workshops too.
That sounds like Caitlin for sure.
Yeah, it was so. I'm really looking for, and I hope a lot of people get to join us, because I think it's gonna. This is the kind of thing that I think slowly, sneakily changing the world. Right? Not saying you must do something different, but what if you tried a little clean?
Well, we'll make sure there's a link to that in the description of the podcast. So if you want to find out more about that in August in Colorado, then you'll be able to do so.
Great. That'll be awesome.
Will there be any discount codes if they sign up by a certain time or anything like that?
Yeah, but I think it's the 21st of July, there's an early bird discount. And I will say that the day long, that Monday, that 2 halves, either a half or whole, that's all online. And we've got some pretty good AV equipment there. So that actually can be fully remote. The 2 days in person, you'd want to be there for all 3, because that's a little harder to do online. Yeah. But yeah, we're making it so that we can, and we're going to have facilitators and breakouts and stuff ready to go for the online. We kind of learned this stuff from this COVID thing.
Yeah.
How do we do this online stuff, even though we'd love to be in person?
Yeah, it's a different world. And what about if someone wanted to work with you directly? How would they do that?
Probably the best thing to do is trebuchetgroup.com. Sometimes I say Trebuchet Group, so people remember the T in there. And there's some information from our clients. You see some of our staff and everything. And then there's a little question that says, hey, I'd like to talk to you about. And the way we do it, it's more of let's have a conversation and see where you are, where you're going. Would we be part of that to be able to help you or not? It's very outcome-based and supportive, because we are about enabling the best in our clients, not being the brilliant people they need to pull in all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that approach. We try and do that a lot in Agile as well. Kind of sustain after we've gone is really important. And I'm seeing a lot of parallels with Agile, which a lot of our listeners will be familiar with. So I'm sure they'll get a lot of value from this session. Yeah. We're getting to the end.
Okay.
Just wanted to get your final kind of, if someone was thinking about, oh, I'm not sure about this clean language thing. Should I learn a bit more? Should I not? What advice would you give them, Chris?
The advice that I would provide somebody is just explore to your level of comfort. If the results you're getting and you're finding there's a lot of misunderstandings, or people are sort of at cross purposes, usually can see that off to the side, right? Those people are cross purposes. What's wrong with them? Mm-hmm. I think that's where something like clean can help untangle the way that we're trying to communicate in a way that we can understand each other. I think that's super powerful. That, for instance, if you have an organization and people can even see, I appreciate that you're different. I'm not trying to fix you or change you, And I know better how to work with you, and you can respect me, and we have more belonging together, even though we're different. I think that's a huge benefit that a lot of organizations and families and people could benefit from. So I say dive in gently, try a little bit and see what you think. And I believe you'll get great results from just a little bit of effort.
But a sneaky clean,
Sneaky.
as we've now coined.
I'll have to have a little, one of those microfiber cloths that just is sneaky on it, sneaky.
Yeah, that could work with the clean at work. If you've seen our logo, we've got a little sponge on there. So,
Oh, you do? Oh, perfect.
yeah, we can
A
clean
little
that
sneaky
smudge
sponge.
off. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate what you're doing to help other people step in to see sort of a bigger picture and how this can apply in different parts of our experience.
I appreciate it. Is there any final thoughts that you want to share with the group before we leave?
I'm glad you're here listening, and because I think this says that you are a learner. And the more learners we have, the more possibility we have to deal with the challenges that are coming and the changes that are happening in a way not to react to them, but to respond to them. So thank you for being here and listening and being part of the change that really needs to happen.
Well, thank you, Chris, for joining us. And thank you, listeners. Like Chris said, you can find us on your favorite podcast host. And then we also do a lot of social media stuff on LinkedIn if you want to follow us there. So until next time, stay clean-ish. Whatever.
Stay clean. Bye.
Bye.